Hi everyone. I just want to make some clarifications before this video, and I'll probably do this before all of these videos that touch on the topic of death. Now, death is sometimes a heavy thing to talk about, and so I don't want to come across as advocating killing or suicide or incurring death in any way that's intentional. I do not advocate those things, and I want to be very clear that we should value life. That is a story that I very much believe, and I hope that people will come away from these videos appreciating life more. While I say that, I'll talk about some of the stories that we tell that make death beautiful. Now, while we can appreciate death for its purpose in our existence, I don't want to encourage anybody to do anything harmful or scary to bring themselves closer to death, because while it can be beautiful, part of what makes it beautiful is cherishing life. So I hope that that is very clear to people. Please cherish life, and maybe that's a video we'll touch on later, but I hope that you understand that very clearly.
This is from Kahlil Gibran's The Prophet and the section on death. Then Almitra spoke, saying, We would ask now of death. And he said, You would know the secret of death. But how shall you find it unless you seek it in the heart of life? The owl, whose night-bound eyes are blind unto the day, cannot unveil the mystery of light. If you would indeed behold the spirit of death, open your heart wide unto the body of life. For life and death are one, even as the river and the sea are one. In the depth of your hopes and desires lies your silent knowledge of the beyond, and like seeds dreaming beneath the snow, your heart dreams of spring. Trust the dreams, for in them is hidden the gate to eternity. Your fear of death is but the trembling of the shepherd when he stands before the king whose hand is to be laid upon him in honor. Is the shepherd not joyful beneath his trembling that he shall wear the mark of the king? Yet is he not more mindful of his trembling? For what is it to die but to stand naked in the wind and to melt into the sun? And what is it to cease breathing but to free the breath from its restless tides, that it may rise and expand and seek God unencumbered? Only when you drink from the river of silence shall you indeed sing, and when you have reached the mountain top, then you shall begin to climb. And when the earth shall claim your limbs, then shall you truly dance. So this is my first exposure to anything by Khalil Gibran. So uh, I don't know all of his background. I just looked him up a little. He's an American Lebanese, and um, I'll have to read some stuff. So I was curious about his religious views. It says that he was born a Maronite Christian. I'm not sure what that means, but I was curious about whether just kind of that background, and because it's called the prophet, right? A religious figure. But I wanted to find out. So let's go through this poem. Who's Almitra? Who's speaking? She's a seeress who follows pretty much the other character in this um, in the book, which this is prose poetry. And she's asking Al Mustafa, who's the one, he's the main character who responds. And so we're talking about death, and he says, You would know the secret of death. Who doesn't want to know about death, right? Like, it's something that we all know is coming, and we would like to know more about it, hopefully, to prepare for it, or to just, I don't know, maybe it would bring us peace. But we're always wanting to know stuff that about that. Um, And then he asks the question. I think the best teachers are going to teach through questions, right? And so here's his immediate question: How shall you find it, meaning the secret of death, how shall you find it unless you seek it in the heart of life? Okay, so it makes you think, the secret of death is tied to the heart of life. They're so connected. Death can't exist without life, right? And I guess that might be also uh, an important part of life, that as we understand it, life exists um, only because so does death. I don't know if that's true. Just a question. So he says, the owl whose night-bound eyes are blind unto the day cannot unveil the mystery of light. Okay, that makes sense. You have to know life to understand death. You have to know light to understand darkness, right? Good comparison. I love the metaphor. So if you would indeed behold the spirit of death, open your heart wide unto the body of life. Saying the same thing. For life and death are one, even as the river and sea are one. In the depth of your hopes and desires lies your silent knowledge of the beyond. So there's kind of this intrinsic, like, okay, you know something about that. There's something in you that you know, but maybe you don't realize you know. It's kind of interesting. Your silent knowledge. I think that's cool. It kind of there's Greek thought about that as well. That there's stuff that everything we learn is us mostly just relearning what we already knew at one point. It kind of, in a way, hints at um, a sense of like life before the life that we know right now. Like we've existed before our current lives. I think that's a fascinating story that we're telling. I just looked it up. It's something from Plato. It's called anamnesis, and it's I'm just gonna quote the definition I see. So it says the remembering of things from a supposed previous existence. It's like exactly what I was saying. It's pretty much you knew everything when you were born, and everything that you learn in this life is really just a recollection of the things that you already knew. Um, and like seeds dreaming beneath the snow, your heart dreams of spring. Interesting that death is likened unto the spring instead of winter in this case. We're currently like these seeds dreaming under the snow. And usually I think of death as a winter where things start to die. The leaves have fallen and it looks dead, right? But he's comparing it more like to spring, where we're just dreaming of something that will actually be more beautiful than what we're experiencing now, which I love. Trust the dreams, for in them is hidden the gate to eternity. So something about this knowledge, that these dreams that we're having, that talks about eternity. So clearly a religious text that hints at death isn't the end, that there's more beyond. And I think that's a beautiful story that helps bring, well, for me, peace, to believe that there is more beyond the now. Your fear of death, right? Talking about peace, I need peace because death is scary. Your fear of death is but the trembling of the shepherd when he stands before the king whose hand is to be laid upon him in honor. So it's like you don't know what's going to happen, right? Is the shepherd not joyful beneath his trembling that he shall wear the mark of the king? Yet is he not more mindful of his trembling? So I think you have to tell a story. You have to understand that like there's something good. So this shepherd standing under a king's honor, right? Like to wear the mark of the king, that's a great honor. And to look at death as a chance to go and be with this king is a beautiful, beautiful concept that in a way, I don't know if it's returning or finally approaching a king in Kahlil Gibran. I'm still learning his name in Gibran's words, but um, coming before a king is quite honorific, and it would be hopefully something that we are looking forward to when it's the right time. For what is it to die but to stand naked in the wind and to melt into the sun? And what is it to cease breathing but to free the breath from its restless tides, that it may rise and expand to seek God unencumbered? So Sounds like freedom, actually, almost like it's interesting because we're afraid of death, but it sounds like death is a freeing experience, that you no longer have to be bound by the breath that we're experiencing now, to expand and seek God unencumbered, right? Like, we are encumbered. We can't do everything. Sorry, life, but this current state that we're in, we are encumbered, and death unlocks a lot. I think that's an also a very hopeful message. Um, Only when you drink from the river of silence shall you indeed sing. River of silence, probably meaning death itself, right? And when you have reached the mountain top, something that we think of that actually the journey's end, then you shall begin to climb. And when the earth shall claim your limbs, then shall you truly dance. I think that's beautiful. Once you're quieted here on earth, right? Like, you drink from the river of silence, you've reached the mountain top. When the earth claims your body, that's when you sing. That's when you'll climb. That's when you'll dance. It gives a beautiful meaning to death. I think the story that Gibran is telling is one that I don't know. I think people might think it's wishful thinking, but I think it's also a beneficial story to tell, because death is all around us, happens all the time, and we honestly need to expect it for ourselves. And so if we viewed it as something that's terrible, and it just ends and there's no meaning, and nothing to look forward to, then that's a dreadful story. But Gibran's story, I actually really love this, is a story that there's more to our eternal existence beyond this current life, and that is going to be full of song, of physical activity, of of honor, and that death that we might fear right now has so much meaning because of the life that we enjoy. And I think that's a beautiful story to tell.